Do you want to have your little rant about how people need to invest into their delve thing?
So they seem to have shortened the difficulty scaling as well as the reward scaling. And by that, I mean depth. Like I've pushed a little bit past depth 600 and I'm already seeing delves that are like as difficult as depth like 750 was last league.
Nice.
So it's been tightened. As well as that, they've tightened the reward scaling and I'm seeing cities every like 5 feet, so to speak. Like it's they are everywhere. I've found 7 alls, which is like 2 more than I found in the entirety of last league. And you're only what, a little less than halfway through the league at this point. You find fossils, you find money nodes, and the advice I generally give people who ask me like, what's the optimal depth? Should I be going horizontally at 400, 500? The optimal depth is the deepest your build can handle while still doing cities. Like it doesn't stop getting more rewarding as you go deeper. You should keep digging down because the fuel cost doesn't scale up, and the fuel cost also caps earlier. Like 860 or so is where the fuel cost caps now, according to one of my friends. Actually, it's Grim. According to Grim, who's been pushing deep, you're not going to be paying any more. It just gets harder. So if you can deal with the difficulty, it is ridiculously more rewarding, and it's also a permanent investment. It's sort of like building an atlas. The deeper you get, the more rewarding your delves will be every time you delve, and you never lose that investment. You don't have to dig down again. You're already down there every time you go back to your delve chart.
Like in general, it seems like depths are just a lot more rewarding altogether. Like people are even saying that fossils are a lot more common further down than like running the early stuff.
Well, not the fossils behind wall. The fossils that show up on the end. So like fractured or hollow, those kind of fossils, those are way, way, way more common. Like I found, again, comparing it to last league, because I've done this same trek basically with the same character, both of these leagues now. I'm finding those fossils about as often now at depth 600 to 700 as I was last league at depth 900 to 1000. So they have drastically shortened the scaling, but they've also made it harder, which I kind of like.
That sounds really good, to be honest.
Delve
like
is
a lot more balanced system.
Delve is like by far the most rewarding league mechanic ever added to the game. Like a mile ahead of everything else, pretty much.
See, that's what I wanted to look into too.
Not necessarily mechanic or mechanics when stacked on each other. Like full MFing and pure breachstones is still ridiculous. But as far as a core game mechanic goes, Delve, I think, is the most rewarding.
How much of that is dependent on the fossil farming for the syndicate blocking? Like, if that disappeared and the market of like being able to buy sulfite scarabs dried up, like how dependent is your strat on being able to buy that stuff?
I think sulfite scarabs would just go up in price. I think there'd still be a bunch available. They would probably, I imagine, like without blocking and without appropriately targeting things on your syndicate chart, which you also have to imagine a lot of people aren't doing. And like probably the bulk of the source of them is not coming from that. Like I'd say 50-50, maybe that's a wild guess. They'd probably go up by like maybe double in price. So they'd go to like being 60 chaos-ish in softcore, which if I had to pay 60 chaos per gilded sulfite scarab, I would still happily buy them at the depth that I'm at.
What?
Yep.
What the fuck? That sounds insane.
Like early on in the league, I was buying gilded sulfite scarabs to push my delve chart down really deep, and I was only at like the depth 400 to 500. And in 2 days worth of doing that at depth 400 to 500-ish, which, as I've mentioned, is a lot worse rewards than like 600, 700, 800 keep scaling, I went from 2 or 3 Elder Armories to more than a full map tab worth of them from basically delve, like 80%, 70% from delves. That was most of my map sustain. And on top of that, you get currency nodes and you get fossils to sell and you get tons and tons of shit.
Damn. In a way, this is like the coolest thing because that's exactly what I wanted out of Delve. Although it seems like you really gotta get down for that to kick in.
The
like,
worst
really
thing you can
down.
do for yourself is delve horizontally at like minimum eye level 83. Like I've had a lot of people in my chat saying, why aren't you just delving at floor 260? Like the fuel cost is less and you're still at I-83. Yeah, but like it's so shitty. It's like doing T16 Alk and Go instead of doing T16 with chisels and with like sextants and with prophecy investment and all that stuff. Like that is the comparison you can make to doing really early delves at I-83 as opposed to digging down deeper. You are doing yourself a massive disservice, and it's not even an accurate comparison because the cost isn't much higher. Like the cost of digging sideways at depth like 280 is like 700 a node. The cost of digging sideways at depth like 600 is 860 a node or something. Like it's so much better for barely any more price. You just have to be able to do the cities. They get really rippy. That is the watermark you have to hit. It's not a matter of investment not being worth the cost. It's a matter of having a build that can actually do it.
Which is good.
Yes, I'd say.
Is it comparable difficulty-wise to like what it was last league?
It's harder.
It's
like the zones get mods faster now. Like a depth 600 zone has the number of mods that I would see on like a depth 700 something zone last league. Like they're scaling up harder.
So bad.
Yeah, not a ton, but like I'm actually a little worried about being able to hit Delve 1000, which the build was able to do last league. I'm playing, if anything, a better version of it this league, and I don't know if I'll be able to make it.
So you're telling me to stay out.
No,
in hardcore,
no,
hardcore, it would be so much money because you would be one of the few people in the league doing that and like reaping the rewards, not only of all the map and currency drops, but also the Delve specific rewards like crazy hollow fossils and shit like that.
That's
I don't know
what
how much
I thought about Uber all there too.
Yeah, baby.
But again, it's going to kill you eventually because you're going to do an abyssal city with crit and extra damage as lightning. A phase run fucker is going to run up to you and just one shot you and you can't do anything to him.
Of course. Wait, what? No, that's not true. Just clear cultist.
When they're in phase run, they're not affected by your curses, so they're not like slowed from the temp change. They get it next to you. They are affected by the enfeeble as they come out of phase run.
Yeah, exactly. So they never crit you. Because you have
like, I mean,
90% damage reduction.
Cultist is good. I'm not disagreeing, but I think eventually you'd come up against the city that kills you.
Sure, it'll happen.
Raiz, if you want to make good money off it, what you need to do is you need to just buy the Scarabs and give them to Uberdan, and the deal is you get a cut of all of his like profits. So you just let a good player do it, and you'll be like, A-okay.
I don't know. I saw Dan died on something. Oh yeah, on Phoenix.
A Ruby Flask OG.
Maybe he's losing his touch. I don't know. Nobody can be trusted anymore.
But one thing I'm curious about though, since we talked earlier about how we wanted more of the like gameplay to be in the gameplay and not in opening like loud candy bars into the microphone, rather than like being stuff to do with trade windows. Do you like the fact, Octavian, that so much of Delve is like buying Scarabs, or is that just like a meme? Are you dependent? Are you just like running maps and it's alright, or?
In order to dig deep, you are dependent on buying sulfite scarabs. It would take so long to do it yourself off just like daily missions and scarabs that you build yourself. But the nice thing is, if I get a sulfite scarab and it doesn't screw me over with a 1 out of 1 mission from Nico, I get like 15 to 16,000 sulfite from a well-rolled T16 map. That's enough to dig for like, I don't know, 10 plus minutes-ish, usually. It's obviously going to vary depending on what depth you're at. You could dig for literally hours if you did a really early delve, which that's the other way you should get profit out of delve. You should never delve in the middle. You should be delving really early or really deep. That's it. If you're delving in the middle, you're making a mistake because you're spending your fuel the least efficiently possible for the worst rewards you could be getting for the fuel you're spending. But yeah, like I only really have to buy a sulfite scarab or a collection of them, like if I can buy 3 or something from a dude, once every 20-30 minutes, maybe a little more often, a little less often than that if I get lucky.
Have you done any like betrayal farming, like the blocking and everything?
I haven't like run Harbor Bridge super fast or something like that, but I do have transportation and fortification blocked. And like I mentioned earlier, I've been experimenting with keeping every rivalry that I can on my chart. And that's actually been helpful in generating sulfite scarabs faster because more people show up to more missions because they all hate each other and want each other to die. So like almost every mission I get has 3 or 4 syndicate members showing up, and they don't want to betray each other because they hate each other, and for some reason that makes them not want to betray each other. Don't really understand that. They can only betray each other if they're allied.
One thing which I'm noticing it increasingly with Pee-wee, like we had this obviously with Delve, we're having it now with a bit of Betrayal. How do you guys feel about the fact that it seems like the vast majority of players are in, as you say, the middle ground, and that is the like worst way of doing the mechanic. And it seems very polarizing.
Yeah.
You either want to be on the extreme, like low level zone, or super high investment.
It's because you want to be spending your time when you're spending either your time or your currency efficiently in Path of Exile. And kind of you do both when you're doing the highest investment stuff. But what I mean by that is you can either just spend very little currency and so guaranteed make a profit back because of that by alking and going on white maps, or doing the equivalent in Delve, which is running at like level 50 Delves or something. Or you can realize that your time is your most valuable resource in this game and spend as much currency as you can reasonably to roll your content to the point where it's going to be the most time efficient to run because it's got the most quantity and it'll give you back the most returns. And since that's just kind of a dichotomy that's baked into the game and how something like Path of Exile works, I don't think any mechanic can really escape that. A room full of groans is not usually what I want a point to be received by.
I agree with what you're saying. I'm just not sure if I necessarily think that's a good thing. I'm trying to think of ways around it.
I don't know if I'm not trying to, like, by stating its existence say it's a good thing necessarily, but I think it's core to just how a game like Path of Exile is going to be played by the player base.
Okay, I'm not sure what point you're trying to make here. That's all, because it's like, yeah, your time is worth money, you run things more efficiently and you invest more and it generates more. Yes, like in the economy. I'm not really...
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that, well, it was more in response to Turkey's question, but the point that I'm trying to make is that since that's sort of a core attribute to how Path of Exile works, league mechanics in general are going to follow that rule. And like it's just a pattern that Turkey noticed, and I was trying to explain the details of that. Like, you know, for syndicate farming, you can do the really early strat and running just Harbor Bridge super fast to spawn syndicates and have low investment content that pays out, you know, basically guaranteed as a result. You can do really early delves. You can do, you know, Al can go super fast on maps, that sort of thing. Like, it's a pattern that you'll notice across all of the core mechanics of Path of Exile.
So basically what we're kind of saying is we either have the current, like, bestiary where we can't really engage with it, or we're always going to have the extreme, super low level, super high investment kind of farm.
Or like in the case of Delve, no investment and super high reward.
No.
Low level stuff.
It takes all in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the low delve stuff currently? Because I feel like that's, for the vast majority of players, I feel like that's probably what they should be doing. Because I don't think it's realistic that most people do what Octavian is and going full investment.
Okay. I think that most players shouldn't be doing that if they don't actually enjoy it.
Yeah, if you don't enjoy it, then
you should be doing. This is the thing I hate when people say in PoE, you should be doing X and Y. No, you should be having fun and learning about the game. Okay, if you're objective, okay, if someone comes into your channel and says, hey, I would like to make as much currency as I can within 2 days, and I just started. Okay, this is what you should be doing, because now you're being specific. And someone comes into the channel, I'm new, what should I be doing?
Yeah.
I think
really
what's the best build?
Yeah, it's
for what?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think people should give early delving a shot if they're interested in making some currency to fund a new build or something, and they've not tried it before, because it can be a nice sort of rhythmic kind of gameplay. It's not particularly intense. You know, you're in like a level 69 or 71 zone or something, so most stuff can't touch you. And it is a lot more engaging than Darkness running was last league. Because you do have to actually like shepherd the cart along and break walls in order to get loot, because they've drastically nerfed the loot not behind walls while buffing the loot behind walls a ton. So if you're doing the old strat of like, you know, running around in the darkness with flares now, because darkness has flat damage, to try and click fossils and boxes and infinitely rerun the same zone, you're going to get like pennies for your time.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
But yeah, delve is really good. You should either do it early or deep. Don't delve at floor 250. It's a trap. It's not worth it.
I've only done that
Yeah.
So I think a good transition from that would be pure breachstones.
True.
XP, by
How
the
about
way.
XP? Oh. Yeah,
I
how
haven't
do you
actually
guys
done
feel?
any because privately. Well, I've done like
I
one.
I haven't
but-
done any because I have morals, man. I don't know. I did the same thing with Beachhead. I
I
feel like
don't
it's
like
gonna
pure
kill the game for
breachstones.
me.
The reason I don't like pure breachstones is because you cannot clear them faster than they let you clear them. So there's no differential past a certain ceiling towards how quickly they can be run. So anyone running pure breachstones is getting the same XP per hour as anyone else running pure breachstones. And there's no like skill differential in clearing it more efficiently or something. Like you just clear at the speed that it opens. That's it.
I don't think that's bad at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
no, I don't
it
think
it
so.
eliminates the decision making in I'm going to run this map over this one because I can run the layout faster or the density is better. Like I'm going to roll these sextants and keep these ones. If you're aiming for XP, there's small decisions you have to make between maps being run and what maps you actually choose. And breachstone,
sure.
lull decisions. What? Just put breachstone in map device, enter, kill. That's the whole decision process. Like it becomes a race of who can buy more pure breachstones.
Yeah, no, it's way too rewarding in terms of XP, no doubt. Just I like
For
the
how
breachstone
simplistic the system is.
Yeah,
That's
and
rewarding.
it like I think the pure breachstone should have like 500% life on monsters and 100% increased damage instead of
Like
only
make
12.
them much more challenging.
Yeah, much more, way more. They should be like nearly impossible to do. That should be a pure breachstone. Fuck that. Like people should die if they go in there, but the reward should be there as well.
That would
I
be
think it's
similar to
way
how
too easy.
Yeah,
Yes.
similar to how Delve works, where like they've tightened the damage scaling and the reward scaling.
It's a pure breachstone sustain themselves and they're like 60 times more rewarding. But I mean, it's a similar concept. But wouldn't this take it from like
Should be fucking extreme. If you want that, it should just you should be fearful for your life, whether or not you can even make it.
I
faster?
just dislike how little decision making there is in it. Like it's boiling down Path of Exile to nothing but put thing in device, shoot, kill, move.
Remember Breach League, the first time you did a Chayula Breach? How scary and how tight that timer was? That's what I'm talking
Oh
about.
my God, I was really terrible at the game, and I was too scared to even try and run one because I just knew I would fuck up and lose it. I didn't try one until until Harbinger League, and even then it was tough for me. So yeah, no, that would be a fun feeling to try and recapture, but they would probably need a massive multiplier in order to do so with how much power creep we've had since then.
I would like that a lot more because I think that pure breachstones are we don't fucking need that shit. Like it's fine to have it for like a league the same way it was fine to have Beachhead, but I don't know if this stays, it just makes for a very weird game.